Well,
The red is gone.
the red is gone and the green has come. And that is in VGA all, it's kind of pre-digital. So all color is made up of red, green, and blue.
We have green.
Now we have green, and maybe that's an appropriate color for some of this. What we're going to go into today is what I call covert action. We'll do a little about the history of it, and we'll look at some things, and we'll take it right up to the present. Well, that's one of my students had that answer, and I flipped these up, because, there are pictures of me in there, but that's partially a fact of how I've spent my life, and second, that there were cameras around occasionally that caught an image, and I'd be able to handle them because they were about me and they didn't compromise anything. So how did I spend my summer vacation? Well, that's one answer. What's the other answer? Possible answers. What do they have in common?
There's always a man in military garb.
Well, that could be, that's a good thing, but it doesn't help me with Animal Farm.
No. Yeah.
What helps me with Pentecoste people?
What's good is painted, what painted is good.
Well, you could say that. That could be a critique. I don't know whether I would embrace that fully, because what's good is really good when I'm in the center of action. But this is going to be incredibly easy when you think about it.
Are you a villain or a hero?
I'm a man of enviable intellectual suppleness combined with moral maneuverability.
But not with regard to you necessarily.
Well, I mean, evil is one of those labels that you realize is just live spelled backwards.
Which side of the fence you're on.
Come on. Well, what are we talking about today?
Covert actions.
Covert action, yes. Those are all examples of covert action. And can we take 30 seconds here just to think cool thoughts? Because I don't want to take my jacket off. And it's getting warm in here, Dan, but I do need my clicker, so I'm not walking in front of you the whole time. I have to load it up. Do you think after all these years this would be seamless rather than seamless?
Now you do. It's red.
Now it's red.
It's a short in this line here.
Yeah, it's good again.
It's good.
Don't touch anything. On your tech support.
Oh, okay. Tech support has said, keep your fingers away. Be happy with what you have. 80% is better than none at all.
Yes.
Covert action. So that's what we're talking about. How does America achieve its national security objectives? Or rather, let's think about what do you have in your kit bag to accomplish something? And if we were at National Defense University, Naval War College or something, you learn about DIME. That's the shorthand, the acronym for our tools of national security: diplomacy, intelligence, military, and economics. And it's a mix of all of those, whether it's military action and economic sanctions, or economic sanctions and building diplomatic alliances, intelligence informing your choices here. But what did I tell you about covert action and its relationship to intelligence? Is it part of intelligence? No. It may be done by intelligence organizations, but it more appropriately fits on here, and I call it the third option because I can't count, but because we always called it the third option, and the first option being peace, and the second war, is that we could do something in between, in that gray area, to help influence our outcomes, and we call that covert action. And but historically it's been known by other names. It is really a post-World War II term. In the beginning, we called it secret diplomacy. And in fact, the First Continental Congress approved some money to be used for both intelligence collection and for secret diplomacy. And that they created a contingency fund for activities which continues until this day as in a black account off the open budget that funds these sorts of things. Morale operations, well, you'll find that there was a very, very close link between the development of psychology and the development of a range of covert activities in the propaganda or psychological warfare operations. And in fact, our first discussions of this kind of activity after World War II are with the creation of a board for psychological warfare operations. Just see, most of this is in the shaping of perceptions and attitudes. Then we throw in dirty tricks. And in my youth, that's what we were known. Oh, you guys are the dirty tricks. The spooks, the guys behind the green door, the people that make folk disappear, the wizards of whispering death, whatever you want to call us. And that became more appropriately known as special operations. And today we have the United States Special Operations Command and the activity of 2 days ago of killing the ISIS leader. That was done by an element of Special Operations Command, probably on intelligence developed by CIA. It was not a SEAL operation, as had been Osama bin Laden, but it was shooters. And it's been an issue here that we're going to take all the way through this, is whether CIA, which normally performs covert action, should be also a special warfare organization to have shooters, or knuckle draggers as we call them. Or should you check them out from Special Operations Command? I was a knuckle dragger myself. That's that first picture of me. Well, we'll come back to that. We now call it Special Activities, and the division at CIA responsible for all of this is called Special Activities Division, or SAD. We never call it SAD. We call it SAD. SAD doesn't sound right. I headed an organization to restructure clandestine collection all over this is a footnote in an excursion. And it was the idea post-Cold War that we've got to stop spying everywhere. And we created something called the National Human Requirements Tasking Service, NHRTC. And it issued the instructions to every station in the world on what kind of thing they were supposed to collect. Now, if you're in the business, really, you're the brightest person in the world, and you don't need Washington to tell you what to collect. So there was a certain sense that this requirements business wasn't all that necessary. And in fact, requirements officers historically in the CIA were women, so there's a big sexism in there too. And when I took over, some of my old Goombas John, requirements, woman's work. Said the new face of CIA, a man doing this. NHRTC, well, everybody, how would you pronounce it? Nerd-C. And I said, well, never, I will find somebody or I'll punch them in the eye if they say Nerd-C. So I'm at my first Chief of Stations conference in Europe, and it strikes me that I'm introducing this to them, and they've heard about it, but they don't really believe it's necessary. And I concluded, rather than National Human Requirements Tasking Center, which is the name we used in Washington, I said, out in the field, it means no one here reads this crap. And that stayed on. Well, back to the covert action. This is the authority for covert action. It's this few words tacked on to the National Security Act of 1947. other activities as may be directed by the NSC. And it's been an argument to this day what the heck that legislation means. Yes?
Who's the National Security Council?
The National Security Council is the president and his key foreign affairs advisors, who include Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Treasury, USTR, et cetera, et cetera. The people that are, because we have Homeland Security in there, FBI and everything like this. One of the consequences of 9/11 is to fairly blur who should sit on the table when you're making decisions about foreign activities. Since in my world, the single biggest thing that changed with 9/11 was to rub away the other line of the law. The law says, among other things, we work abroad. We're foreign intelligence. We will not work at home. But with 9/11, that wall, which had been a fairly significant wall between foreign intelligence and domestic security, goes away. And that means for lots of complications that ultimately touch you as citizens of this country and reflect choices you make or not make in areas of privacy and surveillance and all that kind of thing, come because this line has become pretty blurred. Well, that's all it said. Yes, ma'am?
If the finding information and the covert action are really separate, what is the rationale for CIA doing covert action?
Well, the rationale is that if you have an organization that has an infrastructure to do secret intelligence operations, to operate below everybody's radar, that's the same infrastructure you need to support covert action. But in fact, they're not very compatible. And it gets us in a lot of problems. As I say, I spent far more of my career worrying about covert action than I did about espionage. And you'll see that. That's why I have pictures of me in this, because I'm everywhere. And as a spy, I'm hidden behind a lamppost. But I hope this will become a little clearer. Now, here's the interesting thing. 1947, we get that law and it says other activities. And in 1948, we embark on a very robust program of covert action without covert action being defined. It is not till 1991, an amendment to the National Security Act, that we actually define what covert action is. And the important things to focus on here is right there, to influence. Covert action is not a policy. It is a set of tools to influence a political action, an economic action, a military action. So abroad, second thing important, not at home. Third, where it is intended that the role of the United States will not be acknowledged. Mr. Phelps, if you accept this mission, that's what it is. We call it plausible deniability. The fact that the United States government will not acknowledge us. Now, that turns out to be a rather more difficult thing when covert actions get pretty big, and we'll talk about that as we go along. Now, it's not till 1974, and this comes up as a result of a big query that says, what the hell is the United States doing fighting covertly in Angola in 1974? Nobody knows about this. And CIA is saying, hey, we don't do these on our own. We're not out there just to raise hell